Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm super lucky because the folks at Rackets.IE have lent me this beautiful head boom, which is one of the newest releases on the market, so super excited to try it out. I've actually never played with a head racket, which is crazy to think about, but this apparently is the power racket in their lineup, which should suit me because I love power rackets, so we're gonna give it a go. I'll just tell you first initial thoughts, how it feels playing with the racket, and as always, questions, comments, concerns, put them down below. Either I'll answer or, to be honest, one of the other viewers will answer and we'll get a bit of a chat going about this racket. So really excited to try it out. And once again, thanks to the folks at Rackets.IE for lending me this beauty. But let's give it a go.
Alright guys, as always, let's start with my initial thoughts like I do with every review because I think it's the best and most honest way to start talking about a racket. The first thing I actually noticed about this racket was the frame shape. It has a more boxy frame like a Percept or a Pure Strike, which are control rackets, so I didn't really expect that to be the case. Boxy frames aren't my favorite, so it definitely takes a little bit of getting used to for me. But if you're someone who likes those other rackets I mentioned and a boxy frame, but you want something more powerful, then this could be the racket for you, because there is some pretty good power generation that I could feel even when I did this mini tennis warm-up. If you catch the sweet spot, it does fly out quite nicely. And by the way, I'm playing with the 98 square inch version, 310 grams. So let's move back to the baseline and hit through with this, and I'll give you some more thoughts. So this is a relatively powerful racket, but I didn't think it was too powerful. So last week when I played with the Technifiber Fire, that really packed a serious punch. Even the V-Core, I think, has more power than this. So this, I think, is right for people who want a racket that does give you really nice power generation off the sweet spot, but maybe you just don't want something that's as powerful as those other rackets. And that's ultimately personal preference, but that could actually mean that the head boom is the racket for you. So that's how I think of this racket compared to other rackets. Now, let's talk about the sweet spot. When I was hitting shots with this racket and I found the sweet spot, it's great. The ball flies through, you get good power, and it's really comfortable. You really find that comfort in that sweet spot. Where I maybe disagree with some other reviews online, I don't think the sweet spot is massive. And so let's go into the volleys and I'll speak about this a little bit more. Here's where I actually think this racket excels. For me, of all the shots I tested and played around with, this racket felt the best at the net. It was super stable, it gave me really, really good power, and I almost felt like this reminded me of the V-Core in a way, because that was the other racket which I've loved at the net. In fact, I would say both this boom racket and the V-Core are my favorite rackets that I've tested recently, where it gave me confidence at the net. The rackets seem to do a lot of the work for me, and as someone who's not a great net player and not as confident with my volleys, I really like that. I like that this racket does that for me, so maybe something to consider. Now let's talk a little bit about how it felt on the forehand side. And as I do that, this is going to be really interesting, but if you look at this rally, it's probably the longest forehand cross-court rally I've had in a while, which is maybe a testament to the racket. So a couple of things I noticed. I really liked it on the forehand. It hits really well, it's solid, but I think it wasn't as spinny, or the spin generation wasn't quite as easy as a V-Core, or maybe even the Technifiber Fire I tried out recently. I think this racket has a slightly lower launch angle than I was expecting, but again, when you catch that sweet spot, it really does fly through and you can hit a really nice pacey ball, either flat or with some spin, but not just quite as much of a trajectory or loop as some of the other rackets. But like I said, I think you can tell here, it feels quite comfortable, right? Ironically, I missed as soon as I said that. But to be fair, I didn't miss for like a minute straight or something. So I did really enjoy it on the forehand. And later when I show you the points I'm playing through, I think when I really hit through with this racket, I liked it on the forehand. And as you guys know from my previous reviews, I always say how does a racket perform for your weapons in your game? Because that's really important. Now on the backhand side, unlike the forehand, I struggled a bit more. And some of you guys might recall, of all the rackets I've tested, I said the one I liked the most on the backhand side was the Pure Aero because it was a bit softer, had better feel. And on my backhand, I'm not as versatile. I can't really hit them flat. I need to usually put a decent amount of spin and whip. So something more maneuverable and whippy like the Pure Aero is great on my backhand. This one was a little trickier. Again, similar to like how I felt with the Fire. Super powerful, but maybe a little trickier for me. But again, how do you play? Do you like boxy frames? Do you need a racket that does a ton of spin, or are you actually okay with a racket that is more like the Boom, where you may not get as much spin or whip as those other rackets, but maybe you have a backhand that suits that game? So that's what I would urge you to consider. And those were just my initial thoughts, at least at a ground stroke level. But by no means was it the case that I was hitting awful backhands, right? Now let's put everything together and play out some points, and I'll share these clips with you and kind of just take you through what you're watching here and how these points were playing out. So again, you can see on the forehand, I actually think I'm catching the sweet spot nicely and getting pretty good place. Like, I mean, those weren't the world's best forehands, but those two forehands I think were pretty solid. But compared to my usual forehands, definitely less spin and definitely less of a launch angle and trajectory. But I liked it. I didn't mind that. I thought the forehands were quite good. Wow, that was a good shot by my hitting partner there, to be fair. So let's go and watch a couple other points. And by the way, as always, I will serve in a second and talk about the serve as well. But here, again, you see those forehands are pretty solid. That one just went out, but in terms of the bite I have in my shot, maybe that's a better terminology to use. You can see it really cuts through the court, which is really nice. There again, I think that forehand right there, maybe the best example with this racket. Got good pace, wasn't super high in trajectory, but wasn't super flat, like maybe a nice in between, and that's what I really liked. Now you'll see here that every now and again I use the racket to just play like a drop shot out of nowhere, and it was probably easier to hit drop shots and slices than something like the V-Core, and definitely easier than something like the Technifiber Fire that I tried out. So that doesn't surprise me, because what you lose in maybe a little bit of power, you maybe get with a little bit more comfort and feel compared to those other rackets. And again, you can maybe see that here a couple times later when I hit some of those slices and blocks like that. Those chips actually come off the racket, come off the racket quite well. Now in this next point, you'll kind of see what I'm talking about when I say it actually works for the slices when you catch it well and the drop shots. You just have to catch the sweet spot. So something I want to mention as we go into points with serves. I watched a review where someone was saying this is the most forgiving of all the generations of head booms that they've made. I can't comment on that because I haven't played with the previous head booms. I will say that it's, in my opinion, not as forgiving as my current setup of the E-Zone, but maybe a little bit more forgiving than previous generations. But that's really me taking somebody else's word for that. But this is where I'm curious. If you are a head boom user, whether you've played with this racket and previous rackets and kind of taken the time to compare them, please let me know your thoughts, because that's an element of this review I can't personally vouch for, having not played with the old generations. Now, what will I say on the serve? This is a bit interesting. When I initially picked up the racket, I thought, you know what, I expect this to have a really big pop and an easy time on my serve. I actually didn't find it super easy to serve with. I think that might be two things. One, I'm not used to boxy frames. They're a bit harder to swing, in my opinion. So I think the racket wasn't doing as much work for me as usual on the serve. And two, because this was the 98 square inch version, not the 100 square inch version, which is generally what I'm used to, I think I wasn't catching the sweet spot on the serves quite as well. And that became pretty apparent, I think, as I played these points. Not to say I served badly, I just don't think I served to my full potential with this racket. Whereas E-Zones, V-Cores, Pure Drives, I feel a lot more comfortable on the serve. With that being said, in fairness, I didn't serve with the 100 square inch racket. I do have that as a backup that I can test if I have some time to get back out on the court. So if you just want me to do that, or you want a comparison between the two, please let me know. Or better yet, if you've tested both of these out at both the 98 and 100 square inch version, let me know. And that's actually important to mention. Most of the other 98 square inch rackets I've played with have been 305 grams, and the 100 square inch version is almost always 300 grams. The head boom is different, right? The 100 square inch is 295 grams, and this 98 square inch version is 310 grams. And again, I think that could be something that was making maybe a bit more of a difference for me, or something a little bit less in my comfort zone, because I'm almost always playing with a 300 or 305. Those are not the configurations of the two rackets that I had to play around and test with. But like I said, in this video, I'm only using the 98 square inch racket. Now guys, these were all my initial thoughts. I know that there are other reviews that speak about the auxetic technology, high board technology. I shy away from that in reviews. One, I think the more I talk about that or try to pretend like I know all of that detail, I fall into speaking about marketing lingo more than honest thoughts. So in closing, here's what I'll say. I think this racket is a pretty nice balance for someone who wants to play with a bit of pop and power, but doesn't like the excessive power of a V-Core, an E-Zone, or Pure Drive. If you like a boxy frame, this could be the racket for you, and that's what I would urge you to consider. Ultimately, please let me know your thoughts in the comment section. It's always great to learn from you guys, and thank you for the support. The more you guys watch and comment, the more I can get these rackets and make these videos, so I really, really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys soon.